When I talk to people about my hobbies, like how I like sewing or knitting or crocheting, whatever takes my fancy at any moment, there is usually two reactions to it. There are those who support it, those who agree with me, fellow crafters who have a crafty or creative hobby of their own, and those who do not have a creative hobby of their own. And while that is okay, what a little bit irks me is that there is usually two comments out of this, and one we'll be discussing today. Today we will be discussing the comment, "Oh, that's nice, but I'm just not a creative person." This comment irks me because it makes creativity something you have, a birthright. And if you don't have it, why even try being creative at all? But creativity is not a birthright. It's a practice. And today, I would like us all to reconnect with our creativity, because we all are creative. We have creativity, and harness its powers within us. To that end, you only need three things really. That is permission, curiosity, and practice. And today we are learning how we can do those three things, how we can practice them, to build and reconnect our creativity. To start off, let me just do away with some of the misconceptions about creativity. So we talked about that you have it or you don't, but let's also talk about what creativity actually is. We connect creativity with the big, large, beautiful projects and outcomes that we see on the internet. And that is true to some extent. But creativity starts earlier in the small steps that lead to the beautiful outcome. And those steps are the steps that we can practice. So let's look at those. One of the steps is to make a little bit of time each day to practice creativity and to practice mindfulness. And the biggest culprit to us losing the time is our phones. Because it is so easy to give them our attention, because they're not even competing for our attention anymore. Really, they're demanding it. And they're taking up so many minutes of our free time. So as first step, and it only takes 5 minutes, but just put your phone away for 5 minutes and let your thoughts roam. It is that practice of unstructured, unguided thinking that will give your mind the room to be creative. Because creativity is the breaking through of uncharted territories in our mind. Our mind usually tends to go the easy paved way that is laid out before us. But once we cut through the jungle, that is where creativity starts. And to start cutting through the jungle, we need to leave the paved way that our phone provides for us. And then to practice creativity, we can do a few simple things. It doesn't take much. Take a notebook or a piece of paper, whatever you have in hand, and a pen. And you can practice creativity. I have 2 exercises for you. The first exercise is that you take any material, let's say a piece of fabric, and imagine what you can do with that piece of fabric as a project. You will start on what is the easy paved way through your mind with what we can do with fabric. Pillow covers, dresses, tops, clothing. It is when you leave what our mind adapts as application for that said piece of fabric, like paint on it. And that's where my creativity leaves me in this video. But yeah, it's when we stop applying what we have in our hands in the traditional ways and think of ways that we can apply it differently, that we start training our minds to be creative. So take your material, take 5 minutes, and just write down your ideas. The second exercise is just take the pen and your paper and doodle. Because what your brain learns is that from this point of I don't know what to do, to just creating something or processing something, your brain learns to bridge that gap. And you will find that after you started doodling, then you will feel inspired. And then creativity starts to come in and play its part. Because unfortunately, creativity and inspiration is not always something that comes before we start, but is something that comes as we start and when we have started a project. There's 2 major mindset shifts that you will need to work through as you're reconnecting with your creativity. We spoke about it earlier, how we admire the end goals, the end products of other people's creativity. You need to distance yourself from the vision of an imperfect end product. Creativity lives in celebrating the progress, celebrating imperfections, celebrating the process, and giving your mind time to experiment. Because only when you're in experiment, you will create an intuition of creativity, what you like, what's working. It is when you give everything a try that creativity starts to thrive. And that is in open, messy experimentation and not in guided following an end product. Because that, even though we might not see it, is how creative people end up with a beautiful end product in the first place. They've gone through the step of messy, imperfect, creations. And sometimes they even give us a glimpse into those messy, imperfect experimentations, analyze what has worked, what hasn't worked. And they celebrate those little steps. They celebrate imperfection, because in imperfection, creativity thrives. So take these 5 minutes every day. You don't need oodles and oodles of time. For creativity and for sustainable creativity, a daily small practice achieves more than one burst of inspiration that passes. Put your phone away and let your mind roam. Doodle, experiment with your materials. Take away the pressure and allow yourself to be imperfect. Be curious about techniques and experiment, because these are the small steps that will help you reconnect with your creativity. So if you're not feeling creative enough at the moment, it doesn't mean that you're not creative. In all likelihood, and very surely, it just means that you didn't have the time and the space for yourself to practice creativity yet. And this is what our little community is all about. I hope this video helped you a little bit. If you would like to join us in our community, where we find gentle ways to harness our creativity and to start getting into creative hobbies, we'll be happy to welcome you. And I hope I see you next time.